Hello, this is Chuck Solomon, and welcome to the Candidate Experience Podcast, where we focus on the job candidate journey from apply to onboard and the space in between. Let's get started. You care about the candidate experience, but have you ever wondered exactly how to bring your company to that next level and offer a world-class experience to your candidates? It's not easy. Fortunately, Candidate.fyi can help. Their solution guides candidates through your hiring journey, enhancing transparency and communication at every touch point. You'll also gain valuable insights on what's working and what's not with your hiring process. Best of all, it integrates directly with your ATS. Head on over to Candidate.fyi and see how to transform your company's candidate experience today. Welcome to the Empathy for the Job Seeker episode, where HR subject matter expert and podcast host Joey Price is my special guest. Listen to the insights he shares on the topics we covered during our conversation, including reimagining, onboarding, Zoom fatigue, trial projects, and more. If you like what you hear on this podcast, please subscribe and do share with others. Want to comment, discuss, provide feedback, you can send me a note via LinkedIn or via the contact form on our site, www.thecx.xyz. I thank you for listening, and here's my interview. Joey, please tell my listeners, what you do.
Well, I provide HR outsourcing for small businesses through my company, Jumpstart HR, along with a really great team. But also, really the heart of what I do is I help small business owners make good decisions about their people, and I help the people in those small businesses make good decisions with regard to their human resources experience.
Gotcha. What led you into working in this whole HR and talent arena?
Chuck, I don't know about most HR pros, but I didn't have that HR idol growing up when I was younger. And so if I could be 100% honest, HR wasn't on my radar until somewhere around the middle of my undergrad career.
Sure.
So it's not this like, what did you want to be when I grow up? I want to be an HR pro. That wasn't my story. I actually thought I would be in the sports medicine field, but some things happened. I was in a kinesiology degree at the University of Maryland. I realized I wanted to make a career pivot, and I said, let me find a career that allows me to be an advocate for people, to have a work environment where no 2 days are alike, and that's corporate, but not necessarily super stressful. And I guess stress is a perspective, right? There's probably some HR pros listening and they're like, oh, my job is stressful, buddy. You want to change seats with me? But
Right.
That's what I thought at the time. So for me, when it came to deciding what career I wanted to do after college, it really boiled down to self-discovery, figuring out how I'm wired, the kind of work that I want to do, and the impact that I want to have on people.
Gotcha. Have you discovered that HR superhero yet?
Yes, I have. I've discovered many actually, and I actually am able to interview one on my my podcast in a few weeks.
Sure.
Dave Ulrich, who I really look up to him.
Can you give the URL or the name of your podcast?
Sure, it's Business Life and Coffee, and you can find it at businesslifeandcoffee.com. Or if you are on Podbean or Apple or Spotify, you can just type in Business Life and Coffee.
Gotcha. Awesome.
Yep.
I think you are maybe the second, maybe third fellow podcaster I've had as a guest. So it's always good to speak with fellow podcasters. I didn't start out being a podcaster, as I'm sure you didn't either. Has to do with, I didn't start off wanting to work in talent as well. It sort of came to me along the way and stuff, as did podcasting. So, but it's great to have you. Can you talk about one of the challenges your clients has been experiencing with some aspect of the candidate experience and what they did to solve it?
Yeah, the huge one is obviously relocating and reimagining the onboarding experience
Sure.
for the company that used to be brick and mortar, but now it's online. But I could even take that one step further and not talk about the onboarding, but really how do you prepare manage conversations over Zoom when before it would just be a matter of going into the office. We're all experiencing Zoom fatigue and
Sure.
whatever that means to you. It's showing in a different way. But one of the things that we did with this particular customer, who actually is in the process of hiring 4 people right now, is to have them game plan before they step into a meeting. And so we share, a shared folder where we contain interview questions. We try to standardize it as much as possible so that everyone gets a equitable interview process, and really just giving tips on how to conduct video interviews.
I like the game plan. Are are these are they actually sharing this with the candidates ahead of time, like what the candidate experience is going to look like?
No, this is internal. It's
Gotcha.
to share it with the team, and really that's because so often we under prepare the people who are a part of the interview
Right.
process, and that
Right.
can look negatively in the candidate experience. And so, really, it's making sure that we have our stuff together
Right.
and are a united front when it goes to getting in front of the, the candidate.
Sure. Do any of your clients have anything? I know no one planned on a pandemic in 2020, but do any of your clients have? Do they have anything like new that that they're trying to implement, or at least they're in the planning stages of that will will also improve a candidate experience?
Well, we have another customer that we actually introduced to them the idea of a trial project for a senior level person in the organization.
Sure.
One of the things that COVID has done is it's taken away that opportunity to have that face to face connection,
Yep.
and really in the face to face, I feel like there are questions you can ask in person that don't translate as well over video, and also it's compressed. I believe it's compressed the time that people are looking to ramp people up, especially when you think about targeting those PPP goals that we were all aiming for to make sure that jobs came back within a certain number of to. So the trial project, really what that did was it allowed us to get a sense of how the person thinks, how they compile information. If they have questions, do they ask the questions for further clarity, or do they just go on a rabbit trail? And it allows us to see their presentation skills. This particular client, I really don't believe that they'll be coming back to the office anytime
Right.
soon. So you really have to trust the people that you're bringing onto your team and have high confidence that they're going to be able to make the right decisions without having those face-to-face huddles. So introducing the trial project was just one tweak that we were able to bring to their process. And I think it's worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I love that idea, and I love how you titled it "Trial Project." Is I'm assuming that each candidate gets the same project to do, so then the hiring team gets to sort of see a comparison between candidates, or does each candidate have a different project they're supposed to do?
Every candidate has the same exact project. And
Gotcha.
to be fair, or sorry, to be, yeah, well, definitely to be fair to the candidate, but also for the person listening, right? Cynical person may be thinking, oh, they're just getting free labor.
Right.
Actually, it's not the case. The way that the projects are shaped, there's no real value to be gleaned from the projects themselves, but they are helpful in a way that helps identify not only the person's ability to communicate, but just their competency in core
Yep.
areas. So, an example question might be if you're hiring, you might say, you know, Johnny is underperforming at work and he's having a hard time adjusting to life as a remote worker. How would you coach and advise him? And so you would get somebody's response there, and you're able to see how well do they lead people, and how well do they connect people. So it's not free labor, it's not free intel. It's really just trying to get a deeper understanding of if this person is the right person for the role and for the culture of the organization, which could be an entirely different conversation.
Sure. Yeah, I love the idea. I've worked with a business where we totally revolutionized the way they do their hiring. They still hire to this day, but they actually, this was a construction company, so maybe it was probably easier to do. So instead of spending a lot of time people telling what they can do, we switched it to let them show you and actually pay them to come work on a project for a day and see how well
Yeah.
their skill, see what where they're get a good assessment of their skills by actually watching their skills. But probably more important than that is seeing how they problem solve, seeing how they get along with other teammates, seeing how well this was a customer facing job to some degree. They were in people's homes or yards doing remodeling work, but like, how do they deal customer service wise? And so,
Yeah.
so easier said than done. And they were definitely they weren't looking for free labor either. They're willing to
Hmm.
pay people, but if it didn't work out, they paid them for the day and they were on their way. Oftentimes it did work out and they would pay them for the day and then they'd invite them to come and work on a different team the next day. And that's how
Yeah.
that's how they did their hiring process, which I love. And I think there's opportunity here for some hiring managers and HR to sort of kind of delve into this a little bit more. I mean, interviewing really does a great job of determining how well and assessing how well some interviews. Sometimes it doesn't do such a great job of predicting how well someone will do in the job, like someone doing the actual job,
Yep.
and observing that, like in the example that you gave, is kind of watching someone do the job. So
Yeah.
I think that's a much better predictor of how productive and successful they'll be in the job stuff too. So love
Yeah.
love your example there. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, Chuck, and thanks for sharing yours, because what most talented and experienced talent folks that are listening to this conversation know, and they're probably shaking their heads as we're discussing this, is that there are a few truths that we know. One being, it is easy to identify whatever bias the person on the other end of the table may have, and play to that bias, or play to um, the factors in a conversation that may make a candidate more likable. So in some ways, it's easier to game an interview than it is to game a trial project, or to game actually showing up and doing the work. So that's one thing. And then on the other hand, we also know that a lot of turnover that happens is within the first 90 days. And so the
Yep.
way that you prevent that is to simulate or create a realistic job scenario as much as possible to see if the person's going to sink or swim. I think it's fair to the organization that's hiring, that's absorbing the cost of bringing an employee on and then subsequently turnover if it's not helpful. And it's valuable to the candidate who gets a chance to see if it's a place that they really want to work. So I hope more organizations follow the advice that we're sharing on this podcast today.
I agree, but I'm biased here. But I recognize my bias here. So I'm also I'll share with you and listeners as well is that I'm working on a project here to actually do a trial, but specifically for entry-level sales folks. So when you have experienced sales folks, they have a track record, lots of metrics, numbers, and stuff for a prospective hiring manager to sort of review and look at and determine. And when I interviewed VPs of sales, that's what they're looking at. But when companies are hiring for an entry level sales role, they don't have a person doesn't have a track record. There's nothing to sort of look back on. So I'm working on a project that'll sort of help get sort of like that audition in there, but auditioning for sales roles to see if the person has the skills and abilities that successful salespeople have, and B, for the candidates themselves to actually learn whether or not sales is going to be a good career choice for them or not. So, anyways, that's a topic for a whole long conversation that we maybe will have in the future. So, great. So, mindful of time here, I wanted to know if you had any, a tip that you could share with our listeners on. And again, our listeners are people that work in people, talent, HR, hiring managers, they're job candidates themselves as well. But is there a tip that you could share on what someone could do now to help improve their company's candidate experience?
Yeah, Chuck. And again, thanks for having me on the show today. I feel like
My
our
pleasure.
conversation could go 3 hours, hours long. But my tip, I guess, one that's timely and in the spirit of improving the candidate experience would be understand that as much as you're adapting to life in COVID and the remote hiring process, it could be rather jarring for the candidate as well. And so it's helpful to have that sense of empathy to the candidates that are going through your process. And it's all feedback from candidates in the process. Candidates that you thought would be a great fit and candidates that you may have rejected earlier on in the process. So I'd say the big takeaway from me is empathy in the midst of change, and realize that that is a value that is well received in a candidate experience, is empathy for the job seeker.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I would say empathy with a capital E there. I still, what propelled me to actually create this podcast is to sort of help improve the candidate experience and improve the candidate journey for most. And unfortunately, some companies just haven't gotten it yet, and I think there's plenty of research that has translated how a poor candidate experience goes and negatively impacts a company's customer brand experience. And there's research that's been done that shows that how people will stop being a customer because they had a bad experience. And the way I look at it is, a company posted a job and they're going to get 300 people that are interested. Lots of them are not, because it's so easy to hit the one button apply, that they're not qualified. But At the very least, companies can hit that option in their applicant tracking system that says when the position's been filled, and thank you for applying and taking the time to do that. That's sort of the least I think most companies can do. Hopefully they can do better than that. But
Absolutely.
I'm in the job search process myself that I've shared pretty openly on this show, and I got a call from a recruiter that had talked to me about a position, and she actually picked up the phone and said, thanks for taking the time to talk with me and apply and stuff. The hiring managers actually found someone, more local to them that they'd already been talking to, and that's who they're going to pursue. She didn't have to do that. And this is a major consumer brand, which I have frequented and I will still keep frequenting.
Yeah.
Because, especially because, this person went out of the way to actually pick up the phone. Didn't have to do that, but they went up a couple of notches in my estimation of how, what a decent company they are and stuff. So great. So if go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I was just going to say, it's not that candidates are turned off by rejection. That does hurt, but I feel like they're more turned off by being left in the dark, ghosted, as the popular term is these days. So,
yeah, I agree. And, to your point, empathy is about, feeling what someone else is going to feel. And it's pretty common sense that, rejection, but like you said, being in the dark and being ghosted is not, it can totally be avoided. And we have technology solutions that can easily solve this. So we shouldn't still be talking about this in 2020. Unfortunately, we still are. So if people, it's sad, but we can't change the whole world today. I wish we would. Next episode.
Yeah.
So, Joey, if people wanted to get a hold of you, how could they do so?
If people want to get a hold of me, it's very easy on social media. It's just Joey V Price HR on Twitter and Instagram, which I'm on more often than not. But also on LinkedIn, it's easy to find me. Just type in Joey Price, and I should be there. And then my company website is jumpstart-hr.com.
Thanks, Joey. I appreciate your time and insights today.
My pleasure, Chuck. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Candidate Experience Podcast. You can reach out to us via our website, thecx.xyz. That's thecx.xyz.